The G7 is a group of the world's 7 biggest economies. They meet every year for a single purpose: to keep the global economy stable. Guess what the G7 is worried about this year? The American economy. The US is 2 weeks away from a potential default.
Again, understand how this works. The last several presidents here have borrowed from the Fed and have empowered the Fed more so than all the way going back to freaking George Washington, okay, before there was a central banking system. But the national debt has ballooned under the last several presidents faster than you could possibly imagine. But that has to happen. You understand that. Every president must outspend the one before him just to keep the system going here.
This shell game Ponzi scheme, it's this trick is becoming exposed.
I mean, we've had 50 years of continuous deficit spending. The dollar is not attached anymore to anything. It was attached a little bit to, not a little bit, but it was the petrodollar. But we're now seeing that that's also kind of unraveling.
You've heard a lot of the de-dollarization, and the BRIC countries really forming this alliance. So if we go back to the 1970s, let's say, where we have this Cold War between the West and the East, now it's the West and the BRIC countries.
We've obviously seen a banking crisis where 4 banks in the US have collapsed. Credit Suisse has collapsed over there in Europe.
And banks exist on the basis of trust. They're really just, don't take this the wrong way, sophisticated Ponzi schemes.
And so when one thing happens in, say, the banking sector, you can be pretty well assured that it's going to have an effect not just in those local banks or around those local banks, but far and wide. Global banking crisis means global economic fallout.
And I have come to the position of asking, has monetary policy ever done any good? I don't think it has. I think it has done only harm. And that's why I am now pleading for what I've called denationalization of money.
Over the past 14 years since the advent of cryptocurrencies, we've finally had an alternative of a real money to use that's not controlled by governments, banks, etc. However, in that time, almost no one uses this stuff on a regular basis. Still, almost everyone lives entirely off of fiat government-controlled currencies. Well, hey, let's change that.
I don't believe that we shall ever have a good money again before we take the thing out of the hands of government. We can't take them violently out of the hands of government. All we can do is, by some sly roundabout way, introduce something they can't stop.
That is exactly in line with Dash's plans, right? Which is to reach out to the average person and offer them a truly useful product. So I've got to say, I feel very optimistic about just about people's willingness to try out money in a different way, particularly the way that we are attempting to build it for them.
The 2008 collapse was caused pretty much purely by corruption. There was a lot of insider stuff going on, a lot of people just trying to make a buck and not really caring about what came out of that. And I think by aligning incentives, you can avoid a lot of that. And by building systems which are robust enough to kind of work their way around, people that are corrupt themselves, they put up a greater fight. And so the digital cryptographic revolution is one of transparency, and transparency in general fights corruption alone. And so by using these principles over and over again and building out these structures, I hope to influence the world in a positive way.
Hello, and welcome to Incubator Weekly. And we have just had our 4th guest join with us. Hi, Rene. How are you doing today?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing all right. Hope everyone is all right over there.
Good. So Rene is joining us, Mr. Dev is joining us as the developer working on a project that is being strategist led by Tim Spectaprod, who's also joining us today. How are you, Tim?
I'm well. Thanks.
Great. So my co-host Ryan and I, before we get into discussing today's project of Sodality, we would like to touch upon something that is currently happening in the Dash network. Would you care to start us off or give a synopsis of what's happening, Ryan?
I'm not the best person to give the synopsis of why or what specifically is happening, but actually, before I go into that, I did want to mention in the intro, it was great to see so many faces in the intro today. It's like a reunion. We had Evan, we had Joel, we had even all the way back to Friedrich Hayek with the denationalization of money. So thanks for putting that reel together with so many gems, Pete and Amanda. Yeah, it was very inspiring. And one of the things that Evan actually mentioned in that reel, which I saw for the first time just now, was transparency, and how transparency is, he didn't say this word for word, but the phrase goes, transparency or sunlight is the best disinfectant. And he was referring back to the financial crisis and just banking in general, I think, and how much corruption can exist in that system because it's so closed. And blockchains and Dash with cryptocurrencies, we're like the polar opposite, where everything is transparent by default. And that is actually one of the strengths. And to kind of segue into what's happening right now, the transparency part, everybody knows, at least who's kind of who wants to know and is in the latest conversation, knows that the Dash blockchain is currently stalled on mainnet, which is, in my experience, I think this is the first time I've ever experienced something like this. It's something that we see in different blockchains a lot, but this is the first time that I've seen it happen in Dash's history. I think it probably did happen a lot in the past, like when it was first being bootstrapped, and I'm pretty sure it will be like based on the conversations that I've seen. I think that we're honing in, we meaning Dash in general and Dash core group specifically, honing in on what the cause is, and I think that we'll have a solution pretty soon here. But yeah, I think this is interesting territory, to say the least, to be in right now, where a lot of times we thought, Dash never goes down, and up until now, for many years, it hasn't gone down. But when you compare this to other systems, such as like Visa networks, they go down. Amazon, they go down. Like, everybody has some amount of nines, as they call it in the industry, where your uptime is measured in 99.9% uptime, or 99.99%, or how many nines past the decimal point of uptime do you have? And I'm pretty sure that with Dash, we still have some pretty significant nines. But this is the balance that we take with, on the one side, being ultra conservative and not doing anything new, and not trying anything new because we don't want to break anything. And on the other side, being ultra progressive and changing everything, and the Silicon Valley slogan of move fast and break things. And I think that you want to be somewhere in the middle. And in my opinion, Dash is pretty well balanced still. And this is kind of evidence that it's evidence of progress, or at least attempted progress, that we would have this problem, because it would be easy to not have this problem. We would just, basically have a system where, we'd still be running on version 0.3 or whatever of Dash, and we wouldn't have any new features. So these are growing pains. I'm looking forward to it being in the past, obviously, but this is what we do. This is, we have to improve, and we have to build in order to improve. So it's part of the game.
Thank you, Ryan. Well, sorry. Hey, in watching the intro, I just realized how much I miss Evan and your. Sorry. I appreciate what you've said, Ryan. It feels like what Evan might have said. So thank you. Anyway, let us move on to Sodality. Dear Tim, would you give us an overview of the purpose of Sodality?
Oh,
I think there you are. You're good. You're good.
One of the things that I
There's
appreciate
a gorgeous
about
river running in the background, or am I the only one hearing that?
Yeah, that's why I had muted. How's that? I'll turn my gain down. Is that better?
Yeah, and then get close to the mic, as close as you can.
There we go.
Sounds good. Thanks, Tim.
Good. Sorry about that. It is sweltering in this room, and the windows are open, and there's lots of traffic outside. So Sodality is it started out as an intent to be an alternative to Patreon. So it is and that's one of the things that I really appreciate about this project. This is a project that I inherited from last year with all the restructure that we went through. And as we've been able to work on it, we're beginning to see this vision come through of being able to give a platform for creators to create and distribute what it is that they're creating and be able to monetize that using Dash. So Dashatize it, if you will. And then allowing Dash users to have a place where you can actually spend the Dash and support creators doing their thing. And so really one of the purposes really behind the incubator, building those use cases, like actual practical real world use cases. And this is one of those places where we are really close to being able to launch this and being able to have a viable product that people can begin to build things on and begin to pay for things on.
Okay. And then will you please introduce Rene and share with us, and Rene, will you share with us your involvement here?
Sure. So this is Rene, Mr. Dev on Discord. He has been incredibly active in the probably about the last 5 or 6 months in the incubator. And this is one of the projects that I have brought him in on. And I'm really glad that, one, he was able to join this morning, but I'm also really glad to have him available on this project. I've been really impressed with the work that he does, and I've been really happy with the pace and his thoroughness and the details that he goes into. And we're fortunate to have him working with us.
Grand.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you. Before I get started, my name is Rene Cromer, as everybody else has introduced me. And I've been hearing Dash since 2017, and I've been, trying to get in and try to build what Dash has been doing, because I believe its vision of being a decentralized currency out there, and it's one of the, if not unique, currencies out there that has been, as Lion said, it does have the almost uptime of 99%. So we didn't have any kind of any broken stuffs or any kind of centralization power to the chain. So after that, I've been working on Sodality for at least 2 months now. The project itself was stalled, and when I took in, I decided that it needed to have new infrastructure and updated frameworks. So first of all, we built the Sodality using the Next framework. I think that's the best in the current industry. And also, we have been trying to go on and use Platform, as we saw in the last week news that Platform is now stable on testnet. So what we are trying to do is use the Platform and make sure that we have the best out of the Platform. So we're going to use every feature from the Sodality using the Platform, from the login up to the tipping of the users. So I think, as Spectre said, we have some of the outcomes that we need from the Sodality, and that's what we have been building. First of all, we are building this to be a free and accessible product to everyone. So there will be no any commission. Otherwise, Dash will be like powering each and every feature on it. So let's say a user might want to just use the app without signing up or logging in. We want to make sure that a user can use Dash without any hassle of using any of his information. So we'll just use, let's say, an address for a user, a Dash address, and the user can tip or can subscribe to a creator. I think that's the best solution that we have not seen around this platform. For example, Patreon. And another thing is the biggest problem in Patreon is that there are hidden fees and commission that a user or a creator might not know. So that's what we are trying to remove that in Sodality. Also making sure that any private information will be used when communicating with your creators. I think that's another biggest point of Sodality. And I can give it over to Tim, and so I can continue.
Okay. And would it be helpful if I were to, I found this mock-up, this sort of web mock-up of Sodality, Tim. Could we have like a look through that while we talk about it, or what do you think?
Yeah, let's go for it.
Yeah, it's so pretty.
Yeah,
Okay.
so this is, are you on wireframes, or are you actually on the site? Okay, you are on the site.
Yeah.
So this is,
and I can do it if you want, or if you'd rather do it, we can load it from your end so that you can be the one to take us around.
No, that's fine. So right now, what you see is a lot of placeholders. Because this isn't a company, there isn't a lot of marketing language around it. So we use Joel as an example across the board of different kinds of creators. And you'll see down here, so as we get more creators in there, then we'll be able to update these places and these points. So once we're able to release it, which we're still in production, but what you see is actually a working model of what this will be. And so you're going to have, we have example pages of what this can look like, and you can get through and you can use it as as example. So it's all in demo mode, but it is functional. And what we're waiting on now really is the ability to fully integrate with platform so that you can begin to create and begin to be paid for creating, and you can begin to subscribe and pay for those subscriptions. And that's really the final piece that we need to be able to pull together. There's some of the details are being pulled together, being able to make it more editable and usable by creators and then by users. But the login here is going to be using platform. And then to Renee's point, we also wanted to make it so that you don't have to give any personal information, just your Dash wallet address, allowing you to actually make transactions.
So when you say it's fully, or when you say it's functional, what do you mean by that? What do you mean it's functional?
So if you go to Explore, and so you can make any selection.
Let's be a local business.
And so once there aren't any creators in this category yet, unfortunately, because we don't have any creators. So as we bring them in, you'll be able to tag yourself as a local business so that you are doing something locally, and then you'll be able to search for local businesses that you want to be able to support. You can go ahead and connect through DashPay to your wallet. And then here's another example. So you can go into writers and journalists, and if you explore like what Usman has, so then you can see this is how I would join this tier, and this becomes automated. And then you as a creator, you can go ahead and put out creations that would be free, creations that would be pay gated, creations that would be like a freemium, so to speak, edit your profile, be able to put snippets, and be able to put previews of what it is that you have to offer.
So I have a question about this, the recurring payments. How are you handling that? Maybe this is a better question for Rene. How are you handling recurring payments? And maybe in particular, it looks like these are dollar denominated amounts. So how is that happening?
Sorry. Well, the user will use his Dash wallet. So let's say he or she will, let's say, go on. He will want to go and join for at least 3 months of recurring, or let's say just recurring every month. So what we'll be charging is his address. Let's say his address doesn't have enough Dash, then that recurring payment will stop. So the user will have to fund his only Dash wallet so we can get that recurring payment. Otherwise, the subscription will be cut off.
Okay. Yeah, I'm not sure if this is if we've got this far in the development, but like, how does a recurring payment happen? Is it like a prepayment with time distributed over time, or is it like a request to the wallet, or how is the wallet actually even connected to the app at this point, or in the plans?
Yes, so what will happen is every month when the user will come on to the app, and let's say he will want to view other details for another month that let's say it's recurring, he will have to pay at that point where he want to interact with the creator. So we don't actually use the payment, whereas the user doesn't look anything. That will be, let's say, taking funds from the user without his approval. So when it comes, when the subscription ends and the user wants to continue viewing that subscription, he will have to pay actually. So we'll have a pop-up, or let's say a timeline where the user will have to pay the amount when that first subscription ended. So actually we'll have the user permission and not, let's say, a prepayment.
Okay, so it basically kind of like locks you out of the content. Is it?
Yes.
I'm not familiar enough with Patreon to know how they're doing it, but is it locking people out of content? Is this more of a donation, or is it like I pay like a subscription to get this person's content?
Okay, so we have all of the things you said. We have a one-time donation, and we have a subscription plan. So when the user subscribes, and for that month, it will actually, when that month ends, it will remind him that his subscription has ended, and thus he will have to pay for the next subscription. So it will actually lock you out. On Patreon use a prepayment. So when your card doesn't have funds, it will lock you out of content. Same as what we're doing here. Thus, we're just giving a person more power to actually know what he's spending on at that time, and not just have a prepayment before even he doesn't use the subscriptions.
And this is the MVP. So future state is going to deploy things like the ability to use smart contracts, the ability for creators to request payment from somebody instead of it always being the purchaser pushing a payment to a creator. So the roadmap has a lot more feature and a lot more functionality built into it. This is working to get the MVP out. That is a usable piece both for patrons of creators and the creators.
Okay, yeah, and my understanding of Patreon, again, as a non-user, just from the outside perspective, was that it's mostly like I just want to donate to this person. He's delivering content, and maybe even like I'm able to consume that content regardless of whether I'm paying. But it's like I just want to support this person. So it sounds like you might have features for both, like, you know, locking people out of content and the other one, which is just, you know, you can pay and you can choose to pay, but you'll get the content regardless. But yeah, I'll have to look more into this. I think regardless, it would be interesting to see when we get a little further along with the wallet project, to see how that might integrate if we have a web wallet that could potentially, whether that's through an extension or whether it's through browser storage or however we end up doing it. It would be interesting to see if we could arrange some kind of recurring payments that's just requesting, you give it pre-authorization to do X amount of Dash per month or something like that. But I guess we'll get to that when we get a little further down the road.
Okay. So will you clarify for me, Tim? I just didn't quite pick up how much of this is Or rather, how much of the intended functionality is reliant on platform versus how much could work without it?
Future state is to be heavily dependent on platform. The MVP is not going to be, simply because that's a lot more development, and also we're still waiting for that won't be available until full deployment of platform on mainnet anyway. So the current state is that it will work with that. The current state really is to make Dash transactions available for creators and for patrons, and to be able to gate that which creators want to be able to gate for those wallets that have subscribed.
Nice. Okay, and then whose, out of curiosity, whose original concept was this?
I think the original concept was actually Ash's.
Okay.
Either that or Joel's. Looking back through the history, they were both heavily involved in the early stages, and then I picked it up last year. But it was the concept was either Ash's or it was Joel's. Both of them were heavily involved in building out the original specifications.
And I think Joel was the one who made the. I think Joel was the one who made the original concept. Joel.
Okay. And are you like doing all the heavy lifting, Rene, or do you have other developers that you're working with, or how's that?
Yeah. So I'm working with Emmanuel Eclipsy on this. So we are trying to collaborate and trying to get this to the finish line, at least, so we can use almost, let's say, the Dash login. And then we can come to the next, let's say, integrate the wallet tools that I think Coolidge made. That's our plan.
Okay. Yeah, I would just be curious a little bit to hear about more of your personal background as we wrap up. Like how you discovered Dash specifically.
Well, I was much into Ethereum back in the day. I think it was 2017. I think that was the first time where Bitcoin launched it to $20,000. So that was the time where, as a developer and as a currency trader, I was trying to look to the alternatives of Bitcoin that will have, let's say, a real use. Because at that time, the Bitcoin fees were almost too high. So we were trying to find the best solution that we could get alternative of Bitcoin that doesn't go far away from the Bitcoin. And that's when I found Dash. I think I've been following it for almost years until I found, I think, last year, the Dash Incubator. That's when I tried to join, and then I think I contacted you and then tried to at least build more on this, because I much believe of what it was before it. I think it was Darkcoin back in the day. That was it.
Sounds good.
Righteous. Okay, well, thank you for coming on today, Tim and Rene. It was especially fun to see the mock-up of the site. And that is going to be everything for us today, unless anyone has any final comments they would like to share. No. Okay. Well, in that case, thank you, everyone, for joining us. We hope to be at the beginning of next week's episode. We hope to be discussing the totally awesome recovery and fix of the mainnet issue going on today's Dash blockchain. And so until then, take care.
Adios.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.